Facebook.
Hi.
Yep, the broadcast is live. We're live.
We're live now, kids. And it's the Big Comedy Podcast with Jim McHugh and Carolyn Plummer's here. And we have a special guest we were just talking and bragging about. And he was here at the beginning of comedy when they used to do it the old-fashioned way. It was like a month after the ship landed at Plymouth Rock. One of the pilgrims had a microphone, and instead of a buckle on his hat, he said, "Come to Nick's, 2 for 1, 2-drink minimum." And many of the indigenous peoples back then would pay for their comedy shows with clamshells
because they haven't set up their casino yet.
Yes, and it was censored very strictly, I believe, in those days by the Redcoats.
Yeah.
I'm just going through 300 years of history. I went from the Pilgrims to the Redcoats in 3 minutes. Like, that all happened in a weekend.
You skipped the Puritans. It was a much cleaner comedy show back
man, the Puritans were like, "Ma, your wife is looking lovely today. Stone him. Stone him." What was the other thing they did? Like, they take I like the witch test where they take you and they throw you off a boat with chains and stones in your blanket. And if you sink, you're not a witch.
Right. But if you speak up for yourself, you're definitely a witch.
You just drowned an innocent person. And then if you come to the top, bubbling up, somehow struggling through the material and the chains and the rocks, she's a witch. And then they pound you to death with the oars.
Yeah. You couldn't win.
I think they just wanted to pound people to death with oars. I think that was the goal.
I think so.
Wouldn't you be sad, like, rowing back to the island after you just threw a woman into the ocean in a blanket sewn up with stones and she sank to the bottom? You're like, well, you know, what are you going to do?
Oh, man, I'm glad I didn't live back then.
Yeah.
Because
do you feel you're buoyant? Do you feel you would have popped back up and taken the beating, or would you? What do you wish for in that case? You just,
I don't know. I mean, once you're branded a witch, it's kind of like, you got to watch your back anyway.
Yeah, you're in a small town. You want to get a job at the old tavern. And they're like, "Oh, well, I see you've been a server before, and you've done a good job. And what's this? You're a witch?"
You want to get that butter churning job, and you get turned down because everybody thinks you're a witch.
Right. No one's putting that butter on their corn on the cob.
No, it's evil.
So, hey, what have you been up to? We always check in and you give me a little report on the comedy scene out there in the world. You're very busy. You're working a lot.
I am busy, and today they announced the date for Comics Come Home, so I'm happy about that. Hopefully, I'm still on it.
Okay.
As you know, it got canceled last year. It's on the 12th this year at the Garden.
The TD Garden.
Yep.
And we're all hoping. Carolyn Plummer was booked there before. Yep. I happen to know, I believe it's 17,000 seats in that room.
Which is crazy.
And you're going to be performing there.
Mm-hmm. Fingers crossed. But they did announce the date.
Something sparkly.
Yeah, something sparkly. Maybe some sort of zoot suit. I don't know.
I think a whole feature of this show, we may have bad advice for Carolyn while doing comedy for 17,000 people. I'd walk into the crowd. I'd try to get up in the upper deck.
I'll probably fall flat on my face on the way out there.
7 minutes to get to the top of the deck. They'll be out of breath and they'll go, "Thanks, that was Carolyn Plummer. Thank you. Thank you very much."
I'll probably trip coming out from backstage, so that'll take up some time.
I say they put a harness on you and you just float out over the audience with a microphone.
I would love to do that. Pink did that at her concert. Yeah. She flew out across the whole stadium and she was flipping back and forth, and it was unbelievable. But I think there's probably a weight limit, and they're not going to want to do that for me.
Oh, I don't know.
Because she was in a cat suit and she looked amazing, and I don't think I would look the same. I'd look like Fart Man when Howard Stern he got lowered.
Oh, that was not pretty.
No. So we'll see.
Hey, start trying on cat suits now. You might find the one that just works right.
Yeah, it's in November, so. You know, I'm sure I can have something by then.
I go for the hairless Siamese cat suit.
I don't like hairless cats. No offense to the hairless cat community. But it's so weird. My friend had one, and it's so weird petting a hairless cat.
Yeah, they look like that guy from Lord of the Rings, that creepy guy who was up there. My precious. Yeah.
Gollum.
Gollum, yeah, that's what you have to name him.
But you think they just feel weird. Like, you feel weird petting it. Like, you shouldn't be.
Right. Well, in a few minutes, with some luck, Carolyn, we're going to have Mr. Barry Katz on the show, and we're very fortunate to have him on. He's represented like everybody who's huge, and 3 people that probably will be, and a lot of our compatriots from the olden days, Dane Cook and Patrice O'Neill, and I don't know if he handled Bill Burr, maybe not. But
I think he did. Well, it's said on Wikipedia, but you can just add your name. I'm going to add my name to that list.
Yeah, if he comes on, we've worked with him, so.
Because anybody can just update Wikipedia if it's still set up the way it was.
I see. Yeah, let's put our names in there. That's cheap promo, right?
How funny would that be?
We'll probably be sued.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's Wikipedia.
This team of lawyers would crush us.
I don't have money for a lawyer.
That's our only strength, Carolyn, is we don't have enough money to be sued.
Yeah, so people can sue me, but
what are you going to do?
Good luck.
You want my shoes? I got size 14 feet. Good luck.
Do you want my student loan debt? You can have that.
Can I pay you in cans of soup?
I'll write you a check.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I'm almost thinking we bring Tommy on already, but I think it'd be better if we surprise Barry with him. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you should surprise Barry.
Launch to a surprise guest.
And we can see what happens.
I got a lot of questions for this guy because he's managed like everyone big that you've ever heard of. And he's also been an agent. He's been a college agent. He's he's done everything. He's produced TV shows.
And what does he do now? Same thing?
Well, one of the things I want to talk to him about is he has his own podcast where he explains how to make it in comedy. Like what are some of the tricks that he knows? And our goal,
probably follow that.
Yeah. Well, not only should we follow it, but I think we try to elicit as much of that information out of him for free. So at a minimum, we learned some tricks. Like he's pretty an expert at Patreon. Which
I don't even know that.
It looks like he's almost ready to join us. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, very, very excited to introduce our next guest. He has handled some of the biggest acts in comedy, and I mean, the list is endless. For our Boston friends, off the top of my head, I can say Jay Mohr and Dane Cook and Patrice O'Neill and Tracy Morgan's not a Boston act, but I mean everybody. I mean, we're gonna pull it out of him a little in a minute, but he knows if there's one guy that you would like to get stuck on an elevator and learn about comedy, this is the guy. This is the guy you want to go, can I have 15 minutes of your time? And you're going to learn something. So I would recommend you tune in and listen and learn. So I'm going to bring him on. Hi, this is Barry Katz. Barry, thank you so much for doing the show today.
All right, my pleasure.
Can I introduce you to Carolyn Plummer? She's a very funny comedian from Boston.
Hi, Barry.
I'm sorry, that's not allowed. I didn't know that was going to happen. I'm kidding, of course. Hi,
Barry, Carolyn got booked for the big show at the TD Garden, but COVID canceled it. So we're hoping she gets on the next one. So that's going to be a big break for her. She's going to be in the TD Garden in Boston. Fingers crossed.
Let me tell you something, Carolyn. You should send the TD Garden a fruit basket that you didn't do that show in Boston.
Right.
I mean, ask Dane Cook about his first show ever at Boston Garden, and
okay.
I'll let you know. But no, that's awesome. You know, it's this podcast is weird the way it's set up at StreamYard. You see, so I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
And then when I want to look at Carolyn, I got to go like this. You know,
and everything's opposite, so it messes with your head.
Like we learned early on that if you start leaning, it makes you feel like you're leaning the wrong way. So to correct it, you keep going the wrong way.
It's like the Brady one. It's like awful. I'm like wondering.
Yeah, you're working on a virtual cruise ship, you know.
All right, it's okay. I feel that's better. Whatever you did.
Better.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm very
good.
happy now.
Okay.
Let me see. I'll just try to get myself all. I look like a homeless Jew in a shelter. I don't know what's happening. It's all good. I feel good. I'm excited. I may get up to pour myself some tea at any point in time, but I'm excited to be here, Jim. I haven't seen you in a long, long time.
It has been a long, long time.
Congratulations on all your success. And
I have so many. I don't know where to start because I have so many questions for you. And I can't afford your consulting rates. So this is kind of like a chance for me, you know, because.
Sorry, I'm so expensive. It was all those hell gigs I'm making up for.
Well, I mean, for the comedians that tune into this, first of all, the first thing is they should tune into your podcast because you're giving away some secrets there that are invaluable. And I can tell you at the Boston Comedy Festival, we have a lot of times an industry person that comes in and during the day, they'll be talking to them about how to get a manager, how to get an agent, how to promote themselves. And 16 people will show up in a theater that seats 100. We have 100 comedians in town. And they all think they're going to meet the guy or the gal at the bar later that night and get their deal when everyone's relaxing. And you know what I mean? And I think they missed the boat because we were just talking about the TD Garden, it is funny because my thought with that was I did extra work for Celtic Pride, which was, thank God they didn't give me a speaking role in that movie. But they heckled the guys playing basketball. Like they didn't realize these are actors. It's not a real game. You know. But also how do people, at what point is a comedian ready to get a manager? Do you get a manager first? Do you need an agent?
My biggest advice about that, Carolyn, is that, look, I'm a manager and I consider myself, I believe in myself as a manager. I know when I believe in somebody and I combine my talent with theirs, it's like unstoppable. However, I also know that like everybody else in the world, including you, Carolyn, or Jim, or anybody listening, we've all failed, and when we fail on our own, it's wonderful for us. When we fail combined with somebody else, like in a marriage or in a management relationship, it's hard because you want to make sure you're great and you're doing all the great things. But when you're a manager, I want to say this in a way that we'll get to the end of the question, is that let's say I represent you, Carolyn, and you I send you out on 100 auditions and you don't book one audition. But are you the failure or am I the failure? You could say, well, I'm the failure because I didn't help you figure out how to make the adjustments necessary to book a job. Another manager might say, well, Carolyn's the failure because she booked as many jobs as a dead guy. But the bottom line is, if you're doing the right thing and you're taking people's breath away and you're blowing people the fuck away on stage, you don't have to worry about a manager or an agent. They're going to find you and they're going to chase you like your ass is on fire. There is no one getting standing ovations every night in the comedy clubs who doesn't find a manager or an agent. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. You could be a great stand-up comedian doing comedy in a bathroom in Guam, and we'll find you. If you're doing the material that Chris Rock did on Bringing the Pain, you know, that 8-minute segment, you know, black people and the N-word, you're doing an 8-minute chunk like that, where it's just like, boom, it's like a fight where no one's fighting back, you know, just uppercut after uppercut after uppercut. It's over. You know, if you're doing a bit like Jim Jeffries does, where he, about gun control, where he goes on both sides and back and forth and then ends up and just like it has the audience in a headlock. Killing. That's, you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about anything at all. And there's, just be fucking funny. And the thing that bothers me most about comedy, to be honest with you, is that today everyone knows what funny is. You have all the videos of everyone's first appearance on The Tonight Show. You have Louis Anderson from 40 years ago saying, when the crowd applauds after he's introduced, hey, I don't have much time, I'm in between meals.
Yeah.
Boom. You know, I just ate at McDonald's. They had to change the sign. Boom. I was in the heavy Olympics. Broad jump. Killed her. Boom. You know, it's like you just, or Gary Shandling, who is, you know, was a genius.
Absolutely.
Unbelievably, his first Tonight Show wasn't necessarily all the jokes that comedians these days would say, well, that's groundbreaking, because it wasn't. He started his set off, the first appearance ever, he pulls a pen out of his pocket with the chain. He says, got one of those free pens today at the bank. Got the calendar too, but I need a screwdriver to change the date. You know, it's just, but he's carrying a pen around in his pocket to do the set. And then he did a series of dick jokes ending with, you know, my girlfriend's in bed with me, recreating Disney World. It's a small world after all. You know, so, but confidence and power and, you know, it's incredible what that'll give you. So you see so many comedians going on stage and they'll do these jokes and there's no uppercut. It's like, you know, it's like jab, 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 jab. Straight right hand, though I grazed him. Okay, jab, jab, jab. Combination, okay, I hit him once. And then maybe there's that one uppercut. But when it comes to comedy, you just, granted, if you're a storyteller, I just want to preface this. If you're a storyteller, like Chappelle, who I represented for over 8 years, then you're jab, 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 straight right, jab, 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 combination. And then at the end of your story, boom. I get it. But if you're the traditional person taking a premise and doing lines, you know, with it, then there's no reason to go on stage with material that doesn't have, you know, take the audience on the journey to where you're at the end of the cliff and it's like, holy shit, it's, you know, what's going to happen here? I look at comedy like, it's crazy, like a horror movie. Okay? I don't want to see the comedian who shows me the knife on the table.
Right.
Okay, I don't want to see the knife on the table. Well, Barry, it's when the knife is on the table, you know what they're going to kill him with, and you're still tense because you know they're going to use the knife to kill them, and you're nervous about when they're going to get killed with the knife. Well, I'd like to be more nervous about not knowing how the person's going to be killed. What's going to happen? Why was Saw such an amazing movie? Because you watch the whole movie, and at the end of the movie, you're like, holy shit, I can't believe that was there the whole time. Boom. Bone crushing. And that's what great comedy is, taking you on the clip, taking you on that journey where the audience has no idea what's happening. There was a woman, Sarah Halstead, I love, and I remembered her telling me this joke that she'd sent me. I mean, I remember this joke that she'd sent me, and just like the game Telephone, I played the joke over my head. And when I started this program, The Blueprint for Success in the Comedy Business, she was one of the people that I'd worked with there, and I reminded her of it, and she said, "Well, that's not my joke. I tell the joke this way." But it was still funny the way she told it. But then the way I told it, she said, "Oh, well, I'm going to try it that way," and it worked well. And her joke was this. I just want to share it with you. I just want to share the premise with you. And then I'm going to ask both of you to write me a joke on the spot for the premise. And then I'm going to tell you her joke. Okay? Her joke was, "Hi, whatever, I'm Sarah. I'm 40. I'm just making this up. I'm 45 years old. You know you're getting old as a woman when..." What's your joke? What's the best joke you can come up with?
On the top of my head.
When you need reading glasses to look at porn.
Right? What's your joke?
When you need to tuck in your boobs as well as your shirts.
Great. My joke was when your Spanx have an expiration date.
Yeah.
Okay.
And but her joke was, "Hey, my name is Sarah. I'm 45 years old. You know you're getting old as a woman when you have to buy your own cocaine." Now, is there ever a time when that joke isn't going to work?
No.
Right.
I mean, and it ends with not just the consonant, but the double consonant, cocaine, boom. And so when there's a joke where it's like, holy shit, this is amazing. Now, granted, a joke about being old isn't a groundbreaking concept,
right?
Or but the point is that we all know what's great. And so if you took, let's say, Carolyn, you took all your premises. Tell me one of your premises. Don't tell me the joke.
I'm more of a storyteller kind of, but I'll give you a short premise. I didn't know we were going to workshop.
We're not going to workshop. I don't even know that word. I don't know class or workshop. So not workshopping anything.
One of my premises is I love being a comedian because I used to be a stripper.
Great. So if I gave that premise to 100 comedians, that you gave me a list of 100 comedians, and we asked them to write a joke for that, you're going to come up with 100 different jokes, or maybe there's 75. Some people have common jokes or whatever. And one of those jokes is going to be the best joke, the most effective, and one of them is going to be the 75th most effective. And then the question is your joke the best? Or would one of them have come up with something better? So I'm always thinking about comedy like, okay, well, what will happen if the greatest comedians that I respect, I gave them this premise? What would they come up with? And is mine equal? Would they look at mine and say, holy shit, that's fucking great. That's a great joke. That's a great thing. Remember Judd Apatow, when I interviewed him, he told me about, I think he might have said this in the Zen Diaries too. He told me how he went on the road with Shandling the first time, and he'd been writing for him, and Shandling went on and didn't do any of his jokes. And he essentially, paraphrasing him, packed up his bags and said, listen, Gary, I love you, had a great time, but you don't need me. You didn't use any of my jokes. He said, I used every one of your premises. He says, well, I know, but there's jokes with those. He said, look, premises are so much harder.
I agree with that.
Your premises.
Absolutely.
They're very hard.
And I'm writing the jokes for it. So don't worry if I don't use yours. I need you for these premises.
That's great.
And so Carolyn, when you're doing your stories or telling your stories, you're performing them, and you have confidence and you're comfortable in your own skin, and people know who you are, and each story has that punch, you're going to get a helmet. It's all over. You should look at, if you get a chance, look at Gabriel Iglesias's first national television appearance. I don't even know if you'd call it national. It was 1998, Showtime at the Apollo, in front of an all-black audience. And watch him at a young age, the confidence and calm and just in his body, being able to tell a story. It's incredible. And that's what it's all about. So if you have all that, a long-winded way, you're not going to have to worry about a manager or an agent. They're all going to come calling for you.
Barry, how do you think comedy's changing now with the political correctness and I know you used to book a lot of acts in colleges. Would you even want your acts in colleges now?
I mean, I don't know what the colleges are like now. What they were very conservative then, and even a comedian who's played the string and is doing cruise ships has to get rated.
That's right.
So I don't worry about it, because who's going to cancel you as a comedian coming up? Who cares? Nobody cares about destroying your life when you're coming up, because there's no value in it. You just
right.
That's true.
You always got to follow the money.
That's my strength, Barry.
No one's going to cancel you, Jim.
Hey, Barry, I want to just interject. We have a very special guest, and I think you know the man, and I want to bring him out to say hi to you, if that's okay. He was a little trivia, with one of the red hot comedy teams in Boston back when you were, schlepping around Boston, starting your empire. I just want to bring Tommy Morin on.
All right,
Yeah, there he is.
Morin. How you doing, Tommy?
I'm doing good, Barry. How are you? I'm the ghost of Christmas past.
This is so fantastic. I feel like Ann B. Davis.
I have some good news. My son is reconsidering baseball next year.
Oh, that is good news. Baseball.
Yeah, that's good.
I always wanted my sons to play baseball because of one reason, because baseball is just a complete game of failure. So if you get used to the failure, then you're going to be able to get used to life.
Yeah. I like that work ethic, like getting 100 no's to get to a yes. It's better to get to 3 no's to get to a yes, but if
Absolutely.
if you can learn from the no's,
Tommy, what's happening, man? It's all good. It's like I feel bad because whenever I see, I'll tell you why. Because the same thing always pops into my mind every time I see you or get an email from you. I think of the Carol Leifer routine over and over again, where she says, you know, I take a lot of trains and buses, and I, you know, they're always packed, and I like to keep the seat open next to me, and I have a surefire way of making sure no one sits next to me. When they come past me and they look at the seat and they say to me, is anybody sitting there? I just look up to them and I say, no one except the Lord. And then the seat stays completely empty. So that's where I feel guilty when
He is sitting right next to me right now, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
DJ Hazard used to have a great joke. He'd say, you ever say something so embarrassing that you have to say something else to get out of it? He'd say, you know, you walk up to a woman, you say, so when's the big day? And they say, what big day? And he says, that you accept Jesus Christ as your personal savior.
I thought you were going to say that DJ was the Lord. I didn't know.
Oh, no. Well, there were nights.
Were nights.
Where is DJ?
I believe he's in New York now.
I saw him in New York when my sister was having surgery. He came in to have shoulder surgery and told me how much he likes surgery because it's like a rebirth, because they put you under and then you wake up.
It's really true, you know. I can't believe you just said that, because I had an operation for the first time, and I was put under, and I thought to myself when I woke up, I thought, why does anybody fear death? This is the most unbelievable, peaceful thing I've ever experienced in my life. I've got a shot in the arm, I'm gone, I'm up again.
Yeah, that's exactly how I described it. I was waiting for my sister to have her gallbladder taken out, though, and it was an hour later than it was supposed to be, so I was nervous.
So you were in purgatory?
Yeah, pretty much. I couldn't get an update. I thought she was supposed to be in there for an hour. She had a 4-hour surgery.
That's a long time.
Yeah, but it was just weird that DJ walked in
the waiting room. Yeah, my favorite DJ thing ever was when he would do these song parodies, and he did this one parody. I forget all the words, but it was about the ground round. Do you remember that, Barry?
Oh,
yes.
I remember that. Yeah. Untie My Ankles is one of my favorites.
The lights are much brighter there, oh no, you can't see the salad, you can't see the hair at the. Come on, everybody. Ground round.
I know it well because at Play It Again Sam's at 1:45 in the morning, I would do the reverb for his guitar. So believe me, I paid my dues.
I got to tell you, one of the things that always sticks out in my mind is that poster of all the comedians for the benefit you did for the condition your wife had suffered with. What was that?
Anorexia.
Anorexia.
My wife Diane, who passed away when she was 23, and we had the benefit at Symphony Hall. Yeah, that was.
And how many comedians?
I probably like 15 comedians.
At least, right?
Yeah, I think I did it twice.
Do you still have that poster? I would imagine you do.
I think I do have it somewhere, but I don't. I come across it occasionally. But it's an interesting time because I think that one of the things, Tommy, and I'm actually glad you're here, because it's one of the things that comedians and people probably listening don't understand is that I want to say this the right way, so I'm just going to say it this way. I had the chance to interview Rita Rudner, and her daughter brought a CD. She was 14. She's a musician. And I said, it's so nice that your daughter is a musician. What have you said to her lately that you can share with the audience? She said, I told her, I can build you a studio. I can buy you instruments. I can get a writer. I can set up a music showcase for you. I can do the artwork for your album. There's only one thing I can't give you. And she said, what's that, Mom? And she said, adversity. And when my wife passed away, I just completely thought to myself, like, well, it's over. You're planning your life a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And, but what people don't realize is things happen that change your life in a way that you can go one way or the other. You can stay in bed, or you can realize that the world has a plan. Tommy would say God has a plan, but I'm trying to be politically correct here. So the world has a plan. And so I get in my car because I want to leave town. And I want to leave town because I would go to the clubs and see people like Tommy. And Tommy would hug me and tight and say, Barry, I love you. Is there anything I can do for you? And it was a positive negative. He was giving me all the love in the world, but it just kept reminding me of the dagger. And so everybody comic I saw, as nice as they were, it reminded me of the negativity. And so I got in my car one day and I drove to New York, got off at the 79th Street Boat Basin exit to a place that had a payphone and a Yellow Pages. I call real estate agents to show me apartments. They call back on the payphone, the first apartment, 82nd West 82nd Street.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I get the place. It's a studio apartment, $935 a month, first, last security. I'm in New York, and I have nothing, but I'm starting. And without her passing away, I never would have started my career in New York and gone into the management that I went into and what I was doing and taking the risks that I took, because I thought to myself, what do I got to lose? I already lost my life. So so that helped me to move forward, and now I look into the eyes of my two boys and realize that this person had to leave my life for me to have the life I have, which is kind of cruel, but that's the way the plan was. And it brought me to the Jim McHugh podcast. So there are some bad things that happen about life and faith.
The pain's not over, Barry.
The world clearly brings me more tragedy, but still, it's okay. I've never been upon a podcast where the host doesn't ask a question. It's unbelievable.
I don't. You when someone's talking and they're interesting and they're making sense, get out of the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was deep.
Yeah,
that was amazing. Well, and that drive that has brought you to this place. When we've emailed each other, I don't actually even remember ever bringing up comedy. We talk about our children. You've sent me videos of your boys playing baseball and drumming. I've sent you videos of my son playing baseball. And we're talking about these things that are, number one, they are eternal because they have this lasting effect that is, it goes beyond the scope of anything, because it's in the core of who we are, and it remains the things that are so valuable. And you come to this place where you realize the value of something and what that is in the scope of relationships, people, and so on and so forth. And what you did in those early days for me and for so many other people, you changed the trajectory of our lives. That moment where you were in New York changed the trajectory of not just your life, but the lives of so many people. And I can remember, was that the same apartment where you and I sat on the stoops and you asked me? It was the same one. And it was a beautiful day. I remember it was sunny, beautiful. And, how tall are you?
I was 6'3" or 4.
Okay.
Now I'm like 4'11". Me and Brad Williams are seeing eye to eye now.
So you would have thought you would have sat, I think you sat above me, or I'm not sure, but we sat next to each other, and you said, what are you going to do, after comedy? And I was like, what What do you mean?
What's after?
What's yeah, I was 25, 24 years old. There was no after. I wasn't thinking that far. But you always were. You always were, and you still do. Because I see some of the things that you post and the people that you connect with and the things that you share on your blueprint, they're actually comedy is maybe what's the portion? Maybe 10%, 5%. And then there's this, and here's life, 90%. And there are so many comics who want the comedy to be the 90%. And the life is like 5%. And
But
those
the life is the well that the comedy comes from too.
Well, but the perspective is something different because there's this hunger, there's this thirst to be, rich and famous and blah, blah, blah. And that means nothing. It's nothing.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, keep going.
No, and what you gave me and what you've given so many people was you were giving us a perspective. And believe me, I didn't know till years later, but so many of us missed it back then. And like, why isn't this happening? Or why aren't I going here? Or why isn't the, do you remember when you set us up at the Village Gate and the Boston Comedy Club? Do you remember what happened that weekend? It was the worst experience of my existence in stand-up comedy. It was, what was the name of the manager of the club?
The manager of my club?
No, of the Village Gate.
Was it Raffy?
Raffy, the guy who would mix match suits. He'd wear like a pant from one suit, and it's very strange. But we wound up doing 8 shows that night. It was a Friday night. It was the first time you had us headline in New York. And when I say you mean you weren't even signed on the dotted line manager, but you treated us as though we were your client. And I got to tell you something, however you did it, I felt exclusive rights to you at all time. And I'm sure so many others felt the same way. And that is a gift of caring and nurturing. And I know it had to have come out of, the passing of your wife. Those things that you never thought you'd be a part of were absolute, the fabric of everything you did. And so I always felt like, believe it or not, like you were our manager, period. You had no other clients. Sure, I knew you worked with this one and that one, and we were friends with a handful of people. But that night we went back and forth, right? Running from the gate to the Boston Comedy Club, finishing around 2 a.m. We went back to our hotel and woke up the next morning. And now every single show was worse than the show before. It just got worse and worse, and it was awful. And we woke up the next morning, we looked at each other and went, so we're not actually going to do that again for the next 10 shows.
You remember what I told you?
No.
Well, what happened on Saturday?
Oh, it was devastating. It was absolutely amazing. And I remember Rafi came up to you afterwards and went, what just happened? What just happened? And we wrote the dating game, which is where we took a person out of the audience. The third wall is broken. And now all of a sudden the entire audience is on stage with us and we're doing this thing, and it just exploded. And we wrote 20 new minutes of material that day. That had never been worked at before, never tried. And it was devastating. It was crush after crush after crush after crush. And we were like, okay, New York, you're ours. Let's go. We're ready for you. And that was because you had given so much before that moment. You had given so much before that moment. So it was a setup. And to this day,
I don't even know, Tom. Like I think about it, and I know this isn't the right thing to say or what people would want to hear, but I've never really understood what happens or where it comes from or why the stories that people tell me. Some of them I remember, some of them unfortunately I don't remember all the details. But I don't even understand. People say to me all the time, like, well, how is it possible that you see somebody and you feel that they're going to be successful, you tell them they're going to be successful, they become successful? How does it happen? Like, not once, not twice, not five. How does it happen 25 times? And the answer is, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. I just know that when I feel something and I see something that's going to happen, it normally happens. And I don't know what that's called. You can't prove it in the court of law. But I feel humbled that I have had the opportunity to have that in my life and be able to, like you said, make a difference to people. But there's some people that I haven't made a difference in, and I'm not making a joke here. Like, for instance, Jim, I've never made a difference in Jim's life, in my opinion. I've known Jim a long time. I've never done anything to make a difference in Jim's life. I've never done anything to be like, hey, I can do this, or I see this, or I can help you do this. And there's a lot of people out there that I don't make an impact on. That's why I think I started the Industry Standard podcast, so I could, like, instead of just helping one person get Saturday Night Live with their talent and mine, and you help one person, and it's like, wow, this is fantastic. But now you can reach a lot of people. And then during the pandemic, I think the reason why the blueprint was to bridge the gap between the podcast where people didn't have access to me, and then now a group of people, select people, can have access to me in different increments in my spare time when I'm not doing the management or working on the TV and film production. So it's been amazing. And Tommy, you and your partner, it was Steve, it was just like, I can't even begin to tell you all the wonderful times. Comedy teams are like an anomaly, and to represent them, it's very, very challenging. I've represented two in my life, Red Johnny and the Round Guy being the other in terms of trying to help them. And it's next to impossible because first of all, they're doing something that's like a rock concert, so it's like they're disruptive. They're almost contrarian programming. Every time you have a show and you have a comedy team, they're penalized because you can't put them on second or first or whatever. You have to put them on last. So they're always penalized of going on last. And sometimes they're not even ready to go on last. And so it's very challenging, but I always loved Tommy's energy. Tommy was a big part of my life and my family life as well, because my mother.
She was amazing.
My mother used to love going and staying at this old, I'm not going to say it was beat up, but it was like on the other end of the spectrum, but it had the old furniture and it was the Lenox Hotel. And she used to love going there, and Tommy was worked at the hotel, and it made it extra special. So I have a deep connection with Tommy and my mom, and I'm glad you brought him on this podcast.
He's a force of positive energy. I'm telling you,
Absolutely.
unbelievable.
Tommy, I have something to ask you, and it's Jim's show.
Go for it. We're having a conversation. It's fine.
I want to know, like, one of the things I think the audience wants to know as well, like, we all have our moments where are really down moments, the moments where we're walking through life with ankle weights. And I remember I used to go to Hebrew school, and the rabbis used to talk about the Holocaust in certain classes, and they would, break down, and it didn't feel like they had the strength. They only would say things like, why? And so in your life, I presume that there have been things that have happened that have been really devastating.
Mm-hmm.
And I presume there's times when people don't get to see you when that happens. Your congregation, the people around you, masses of people. So how do you handle things when you are somebody so entwined with God? How do you handle things when something in life just breaks your legs? And clearly you can't possibly be as positive as you are normally. How do you react when something really harsh or difficult happens in your career or your personal life, knowing you do have God on your side? And what's the commonality between you and all of us listening when that thing hits you? Are you able to actually be yourself, or are you trying to be strong for a higher power?
I actually run into oncoming traffic and see if I can get hit by the largest vehicle. That's what I do. Doesn't always happen. But
you're a big guy, Tommy, so it's got to be a big vehicle. Could be a skateboarder.
No, I got run over by a Fiat, and I just kind of wiped it off. It's a great question, and the reality of our human condition is no matter what, it's the same. Death feels the same for everyone. Laughter feels the same for everyone. And so when there are those moments where you go, wow, this one's heavy and I'm not feeling what I'm feeling normally, there really has to, because I want to quit 20 seconds every day. I just want to quit the whole thing. 20 seconds, at least the solid 20 seconds every day.
So it's not bad that I felt that way after Jim said hello.
Usually I have that effect on women, but
I'm gonna say no, it's not. I'm gonna just go with a big no on that one. So what I do is, I really have to come to the place, and my first thought is, how many comics have actually come to the place of complete giving up, and in the middle of huge success, Freddie Prinze, for example, and the list goes on, and you know them probably more than anyone, and so, the whole like accidental overdose, accidental. I mean, there's a mindset in the middle of that moment that says, I really want to quit. And so when those moments happen, and when you see people who struggle in that way, for me, I have to come to that place where I go, this moment is going to pass, and everything else from it, if I don't move forward, is actually not for me. It's for others. And when I put others first, outside of whether or not people have a faith, if I put others first, then I'm able to take that next step. My father used to say to me, it's not one day at a time. It's one breath at a time. And in order to get from A to B to C to D, it has to be, if I have to say it over and over again, this isn't about me. It's not about me. And for me, especially back in, the days when we first knew each other, it was all about me. It was all about me. There was nothing about anyone else. And that's the error. That's the error of the human condition, really, is that you take all this focus off of you. I just saw recently, and I'm sure you're aware of it, the Bill Hicks documentary with his brother, and how he talked about when Bill used to come home for Christmas, and he used to spend time with his nieces and nephews, and nothing else mattered. Nothing else was more important. And when he would come to Austin, and he would ask his brother, "Hey, can we go to this little strip mall?" And there were all these homeless people, and he would give them $5 bills. It's going to be okay. That was his mantra to them. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And how much at peace he was, moments from his death, because he had done everything he thought he needed to do. And I think when the mindset is, for me, it's my surrender to God. I say, look, God, this isn't working, and I need to reboot. I need to surrender again, fresh, and allow you to have your way. Because if it's up to me, I'm 86, and it's going to go bad really quickly. So let's start over again. And so it's a daily start over. But it's daily, because if I miss that one day, believe me, one day turns into 2 days, turns into 3 days, and it can be a mess, an absolute disaster. And so if I can continue somehow to surrender daily and just say, you know what, whatever I'm doing is bigger than myself. I can remember the first time ever we were up in Hampton Beach, Cato and Morin, and we did this show. And this guy must have been like 80 pounds soaking wet. And he walks over with a tank top, and the tank top was falling off of him, and he was on crutches, and he was bald. And he looked at the two of us, and he said, I got about 4 to 6 months left to live. I'm dying. I'm dying of cancer. I'm going to be dead in less than a year. Thank you for what you gave me tonight. And I can remember him like almost falling off the bar stool, because he was a standout. The crutches would go flying. He'd be laughing hysterically. And I started bawling my eyes out. I mean, I was 25 at the time, bawling, just like, what are we doing something that's bigger than just a moment, just a quick joke? There's something else happening here that's more important than this or anything else. And you continued to give over and over, right to the last second of Cato and Morin. And I know with all your clients, it's the same. You continue to give right to the. I'll never forget when we went. And I don't know how I remembered his name, but we did. We got our headshots by Glenn Judson. And everybody, you were sending everybody there, and I can remember looking through his portfolio, and I saw Chris Rock, and I'm like, we're getting our headshots done by the same guy who did Chris Rock? What? And you fronted the bill on that. You fronted the bill on that and said, we'll take care of it when we take care of it. Just get the headshots done. And that mindset of taking a chance, because you are probably the biggest risk taker ever. And you took a risk over and over and over and over again. And that risk is tied into this is about others and not myself. And that's kind of a long answer to a short question, but
good man. I'm thinking about what you said, one day at a time, one breath at a time. And then I'm thinking, when it comes to Jim, one metal container at a time. I'm Carolyn, I'll be remiss if I don't spend some time with you. Tell me about yourself and tell me what's going great with you. And Tommy, you're so amazing. Thank you so much. Carolyn, tell me about yourself. Tell me what's happening with you. And when you say to yourself, like, I'd like that kind of career, whose career is it?
I think at this point, after coming out of the pandemic, during the pandemic, of course, I questioned all my life's choices and if I was on the right path and all of that. And I determined that I was. I'm doing what I should be doing. I enjoy making people laugh. I've had moments like Tommy where people come up to me, my husband died, and you made a difference in my life. And I never know what to say because I just had fun telling jokes. But for some reason, she connected with me, and I like that feeling. I like making people laugh. So if I'm never famous, I'm okay with it because I know I'm on the right path.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Don't ever say that last sentence again.
Okay.
I just want to say something. Why would you say that last sentence?
Well, because people think if they don't see you in your living room, on a sitcom or on a special on Netflix, that you're not out doing the work and being successful.
People? What people? Or this is a congregation of people that are just
my
like
dad's congregation. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're not kidding. You're actually not kidding.
I think that
all I'm saying is that I'm interrupting, and I'm sorry. Is this?
No, it's fine. I understand what you're saying. Like, don't.
Is that? I say this coldly and cruelly. The comedy business doesn't give a fuck about your feelings.
Oh, I know that for sure.
So why feel them? Why feel the negative? Whether you're famous, whether you're not, whether you're successful, whether you're not. Why not just be like the amazing thing about the shark? I found this out from just the other day. Shockingly enough, I should know that the shark can't do one thing. One very important thing that all of us can do. The shark can't go backwards. Always goes forward. If it doesn't get what it wants, it doesn't like sit around going, "Oh man, I didn't get that otter. Oh God. I can't believe the other shark got the otter. I didn't get the otter." They just keep going. It's until they get what they want. It's like the watching wildlife shows should be like a thing that people should watch. Like you watch the baby seal gets killed, and you look at the mother seal, and she's just like walking away with like, well, don't you feel anything? No, moving.
The baby seal get killed, and I go, I wonder who is managing that baby seal.
Jim is like the guy Stork in Animal House. He just has one line. What do you think we should do, you moron? And then
I'm just listening. I mean, so much of what you guys are saying is resonating with me.
I'm sorry. I'm just messing.
No, hey, I'm a comedian. Like, this is great.
No, it's great. So God
forbid we stop and be funny for a minute. That would.
It's all good.
On the big comedy show.
Right, on the big comedy show. Let's ban that immediately.
Oh, it's perfect. So Carolyn, so that's the thing. So it just keep moving and don't have any of those thoughts. If you can, I'm not saying it's possible to not have any negative thoughts, but just like the more you move forward and don't have those thoughts, the more people you pass, and whether you like it or not. And this is the horrible thing about the business that nobody really talks about, is that you have to pass people to get to the next step. Everybody doesn't come with you to each level.
I know.
It's like Squid Game. You have to figure out how to get past people and navigate. And they're going to come up to you, "Oh, Carolyn, God, you're so good. I'm so happy for you. So wonderful."
Mm-hmm.
If you're drowning in the ocean and they're drowning in the ocean, who are they going to save?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to save you. So this business is about being kind to others, being generous to others, giving to others, and wanting other success, but having paneling on either side of your head. And it doesn't even matter if 16 people on this side and 16 people on this side are moving forward with you. It's just, I'm going in my lane, I'm making it happen, and I'm moving. And you all know people in Boston who shall remain nameless, who kill much harder than you've ever killed. You all know their names, but you know that you're going to get to another place that they never got to.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have the self-destructive, complicate winning gene.
Right.
And some of those people sold out many rooms over and over again in Boston. But you know, if you stay on the path, that you're going to change the way the listening is. Look at somebody from Boston who, again, I'm not going to say that drama doesn't follow her wherever she goes because of how she lives her life, but Sam J does something really special, took some risks, did as what she could do in Boston, got the fuck out, and
blew up after she got out.
Pushed her lane. Now, again, there are things that swirl around her all the time, but I think that's what makes her a comedy special. But the fact is that it's possible. You see the examples of people who left. Anthony Clark left Boston. Great things happen. Dane Cook. Great things can happen. Confidence, power, belief. I remember when I went to Dane's new apartment, and he had to go to the bathroom, and he said, "I'll be right back, Katsy." He used to call me Katsy. And I'm standing by his office. And you know when you do that thing that's kind of bad when you're in somebody's house, they left the room and you're just kind of like, you look at there were all these Post-its all over the wall. Everywhere, like hundreds of Post-its. And I'd be looking at a Post-it, I'd be like, I'm going to do Letterman. I'm going to be on a sitcom. I'm going to star in my own movies. I'm going to headline
Barry Katz.
I'm going to headline Madison Square Garden. I'm going to catch Barry reading my note. No. So the thing is like he believed in it. He saw the vision. There was no stopping whatever the vision was. Along the way, some of the visions were derailed, and everybody has to look at themselves and say, what's my part and what's their part? Kind of like AA. I'm not in AA, but it's like I will be after this podcast.
I think they're sending someone around to your apartment right now.
Wait a minute. I just have to interrupt. So the older you get, are you actually getting ready to do stand-up again? Is that what this is? Because it seems like you've been very, extremely painfully funny the entire time. I'm getting a lot of people don't know you started as a stand-up comic, and
Barry,
now
I want to manage you.
I just I've let myself go, Jim. I'm sorry. I will. I promised I was going to be better at this podcast.
I want to look at your stickies.
My stickies essentially say, "You may live another day." So you will buy more metal containers. These are my stickies. Anyway. So Carolyn. So just go on stage like literally with a sense of urgency. Each time, like it's like I am going to have the best set of anybody in this club tonight and 10 times in a row. And I can guarantee you, if that happens and everybody were to poll everyone in the club, the bar back, the waitress, the manager, the comics that hate you, and they all say, "Oh, fuck, you had the best set of the night." You do that 10 times in a row, it's all over. It's all over.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying comedy since the pandemic. Like, just I have a whole new lease on what we get to do as comics, and it's been great.
Good. Good. I look forward to seeing what you're doing.
I'll get some stuff out there.
I want to ask you, Barry, too. I mean, as you're saying all this,
get a word in edgewise. Jesus, the Lord keeps talking. We can't get anything happening here. The poor guy is Jim speaking through you? What the hell is happening? This is like the big Tommy and Carolyn show. It's unbelievable. What happened? Where did all?
I don't want to interrupt you. We're getting more out. You know, like you just silently look at someone and they share their soul. Like, you know, you just opened up a.
Yeah, it's all very profound sound advice, Barry. I'm not going to let Jim talk because I'm appreciating everything you're saying.
We're going to get around that encore. That. I want to learn about Patreon after you're done with all this. After your soul is all over the floor there. We'll mop that up and then we'll talk about Patreon.
It's like
I am gonna say this one thing, but you know what? It's and to do like what we're doing, Carolyn and Barry, it's a calling. Like, you can't do anything else.
Right.
This is it. This is why you were dropped in this moment on this planet, to do this thing. There's nothing else.
Why couldn't I be dropped as Elon Musk? I mean, I'd give up everything just to be dropped like Elon Musk and
be on top of the Twitter building.
You wouldn't have the drummer and the baseball player if you were Elon Musk.
Instead, I'm just dropped like Nick Nolte and Down and Out in Beverly Hills.
Do you think that like a lot of this adversity we talk about is help? I mean, you've got so many acts and stuff out there that go through adversity, and you've got that empathy in you to I mean, if you look at your roster, you know a lot of these guys have had they've had nights and things and huge things that have happened, and you got to get on the phone and say, okay, how do we get through tomorrow? How do we get through the news cycle?
I think one of the most amazing things that happened to me regarding that, this was just unbelievable. So Chappelle and Jim Breuer, who I was representing, they both had offers for development deals, massive development deals. Dave at HBO, Jim at NBC. And we're about to get the paperwork, and Disney calls and says, don't sign anything. We're going to fly you out here first class, meet with us. We meet with them, and they say, we're doing a spinoff of Home Improvement. We have something that no network has ever had before. We have the time slot guaranteed after Home Improvement. Tim Allen's going to be an executive producer. It was the #1 show, Home Improvement, at the time. And we've got showrunners from that show that are going to run the show and create it with you. We'll give you any amount of money you want, and you're going to be on the air for 13 episodes.
Wow.
And so they took that deal. Unfortunately, the show was called Buddies, and it didn't go very well. And so, but it was going well. We thought it was going well. I was the first producer that was ever allowed to produce a show with Matt Williams and his team, which I was really excited about. And everybody was happy. We finished, I think, the pilot or the second episode. Jim Breuer had invited his whole family. There was ads and TV Guide, if you remember when there was TV Guide, full page ads. And like, it was amazing. And I'm in the dressing room, kind of relaxing afterwards. I can look through the door and see Jim celebrating with his family and laughing. You know how you can see people in the distance, but you can't hear the sound, but you can just see, whatever. And the phone rings in the dressing room. These are hardwire phones at this time. And I pick it up, and it says, Barry, is operator connecting you to Debbie Klein. Now, Debbie Klein was Jim's lawyer. She was Jim Carrey's lawyer, Will Ferrell's lawyer, and I pick up and I say, "Hey, Deb, I'm glad you called. I want to update you. Everything went great tonight. It's fantastic. I'm so excited. Jim killed it." She's like, "Barry, I got to tell you something." I'm like, "What is it?" She said, "They're letting Jim go. He's fired." And I'm looking, as I'm talking to her, I'm looking to Jim, celebrating with his family. And I'm like, you're joking, right? It's like, no, I'm not joking. They don't think he can handle the acting, and they're going to scrap the pilot episode. And the last episode, they're going to recast.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, oh, well, should we get him? What do you want to do? Or do you want to talk to him at some point in time? No, Barry, I got to go. Bye-bye.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So I have to tell Jim,
Right.
And I'm thinking, how do I do this? And I thought, let me have him enjoy this evening the way it is. And then after everybody goes to sleep, I will call him and I'll visit him in his hotel room and I'll let him know. And then I will let Dave know right before I'm going in there, so there's no crisscross. And Dave was just furious, and so I tell Jim, and it's this emotional time with both of us where he's crying, I'm crying, and I just tell him, look, there's a reason for everything. Like I always say, the world has a plan, and we're going to figure this out, and something great's going to come of it. And there was this great executive at NBC, Amy Walpert, and she helped me get him a test and put a video together for Saturday Night Live. Put the video together. He tests for Saturday Night Live 2 weeks before the season starts, and he gets Saturday Night Live. And that was an incredible thing. And Dave convincing him to go back, work with another actor so he could get on television for 13 weeks. And Matt Williams made a bet with him that if this guy didn't help the show get picked up for the back 9 of the series, he'd give him a check for $10,000. And sure enough, when the show got canceled, Matt Williams sent him a check for $10,000.
Wow.
So there's so many stories of adversity that you can't even imagine what happened. But that's what makes it great. You look at Louis C.K., who's a Boston guy, and not to get on a soapbox here, but Tommy will attest to, people in the entertainment business do bad things just like they do in real life. And
Right.
And the guy who does bad things in real life, doesn't lose his whole life because he does bad things. But the entertainment business, it doesn't have a governing body. So if it's football, it's like, okay, where you just punched your girlfriend in the elevator, and you dragged her across the floor, okay. All right, let's see. What do we do with Ray Rice? Okay, you got 8 games. You're suspended. What was the fine? $1 million. Okay, good. Okay, restitution. $100,000 to charity. Okay, all right. You do that, you're back in football. You do something in the entertainment business, and it's like, bye bye. You don't even have there's no date when you can come back. You don't even have a.
Right. There's no higher court.
Nobody gives you a shot back. Louis can't even sell a special. He has to sell it on his website. But he won the Grammy. So it shows you can still fight past it and keep going. And even with the Will Smith and Chris Rock thing, it's like, it's like Will Smith, I know Will Smith, I know Chris Rock. It's like this guy, is what, 55? I don't know how old he is. How many moments in a lifetime do you have that have to be flawlessly wonderful and generous and great? And then
Right.
you have 1 minute or 2 minutes where you fuck up. And it's like, now you gotta you gotta be in the entertainment jail for the rest of your life. I can understand if you kill somebody or if you, but I mean, it's like you slap a guy across the face and all of a sudden 10 years you're out of the academy. It's like who knows if you're going to get another movie. It's like, it's nuts. It's like, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be penalties, but there should be some kind of tangible thing. Louis C.K. should, I think, even the two women, I don't even know if they would say this. I would imagine or presume the two women might say at the time that it happened, what's a long enough amount of time that you think that he should be out of the entertainment business and make restitution, be able to come back? I'm sure both of them wouldn't say he should be gone for life. It's like, as bad and traumatic as it was, it's like, it's not a lifetime kind of thing. I don't think. I'm not them.
Right.
I'm not Chris Rock who got slapped, but these are things that happen that it's just crazy to me. And so that's one part of the business that I'll never understand.
As a manager, you got to try to find that path back. Like they get it, that next morning when you make that call, like if I'm Will Smith and I'm calling Barry, what are we going to do? You got to say, okay, let's, here's what we're going to do or not. Right.
Well, I think he tried to do it when he got the award. He tried to make restitution. But I think the thing that you always want to do whenever something bad happens, there's two schools of thought. And I always kind of, I always kind of love talking about this. Because Dr. Phil once said to me the most amazing thing I loved. He said his father gave him the greatest words of advice. Phil, never miss an important opportunity to shut the fuck up. So Chris is taking that advice.
Yes.
And it's working
right now.
And it's working for him. But sometimes when something bad happens, it's important to act immediately.
Right.
So like when Will Smith had that happen to him, immediately what he, I think, could have done was, listen, I'm embarrassed for myself. I'm going to resign from the academy. I'm going to go to anger management classes. I'm going to donate $1 million to the charity of Chris Rock, whatever, and $1 million to whatever the Academy's charity is. I'm ashamed, I'm embarrassed, and I rather than having them have to worry about taking me out of the Academy, I'm going to resign. I don't want to be eligible to be there anymore. And if they feel like I shouldn't have the opportunity to win the Academy Award anymore, fine. And every movie I do from now on, I'm going to donate a part of my salary to a charity of the Academy and to help it be better. I'm going to learn from my actions and that. But he not right away. He doesn't come out right away and do that. And so then the penalty. So the Academy's taking him out for 10 years. So then it looks bad that they're taking him out, as opposed to him taking control and making the action. And it's the same with artists.
And the paparazzi got video of him dancing at a party afterwards. And it just looked like I don't know how people, no one knows how anyone would react to anything, like.
But also you can also see where it's like, you're also, when you're a comedian, you're also caught up in these moments where you don't know how to handle things, and nobody looks at those or thinks about those either. Like Wanda Sykes, who worked on the Chris Rock show.
Right.
Obviously, we know how she stands even before anything happens.
Right.
But she's one of the hosts, and he gets his Academy Award, and she's like, now, do people look at her and be like, well, what are you applauding for? Well, you just slapped your friend.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the host of the Academy Awards. I got to do my job, or I got to do, how do I? So everybody in the world is always, throughout their life, is put in these positions where they have to figure out what the best way to be. And it doesn't always, it's not always understandable. It's not always the way everybody thinks it should be. But with Chris Rock not saying anything, then he doesn't, there's no comments one way or the other. It's like there's nothing to comment on. He's not saying anything. I had this grow into this coffee shop the other day. It was fantastic. I took a photo of it. So there's 2 cups with money in them. One says Will Smith, one says Chris Rock, and people tip and they give to one or the other, and it shows who they believe in. So I thought that was kind of cute. But I don't know. I just feel like adversity is something that in comedy, what I've found, it's created mostly by the artist. The artist complicates winning. The artist creates adversity for themselves. Yeah. Obviously, there's examples which aren't that, like Tig Notaro, who, was diagnosed with cancer and overcame it. That's not, she didn't create that.
Right.
And that obviously helped her become even greater and better as a person, and a greater comedian, and a greater spokesman for the world and how her point of view is. But for the most part, just look around you at all the comedians, and there's so many that are just self-destructive. It's really it's really sad. But Carolyn, in that sadness, it gives you a chance to just be like, okay,
bye.
Bye. Bye. I'll help you later. I'm going.
I love that Barry, you had all this philosophy. We all started all positive, and then you're like, but if you're swimming alone, the people swimming around you, you might need to make them into a flotation device. You got like real for a moment. You're like, yeah, positivity is good, but somebody's gonna get the spot.
That's right. When you think about like how the world works, like the world works in sitcoms or half-hour comedies or whatever. There's one role.
Right. And
you either get it or you don't. And if it's Saturday Night Live, there could be 4 roles. You could be the 4th best person and get the show. In comedy, there's a lot of space for a lot of people to do a lot of shows. So you don't have to be the best right away. Right. You just have to be good enough to add value to the people that are booking you, and the clubs or the producers or whatever. You always have to add value. Follow the money. It's sad that we hear it all the time, even in financial books and everything. Just follow the money. Why didn't Chappelle get canceled? Because he makes a shitload of money for Netflix. They benefit from him. Why did Kevin Spacey get canceled? Because he's not as valuable, wasn't as valuable to that network anymore. One of the greatest actors of my generation, the guy doesn't even work anymore. It's like, it's crazy to me. Why is Joe Rogan canceled?
Right.
Because the money. They need the money. They know that he'll leave and make just as much money, or somebody else will find him. Same with Chappelle.
Right.
And I know it sounds crazy, and I'm not political at all, but why is Trump successful? Because it's like he earns money for people. I mean, his name, just we talk about him, he's ratings. And ratings are money. And people love that. Now the country, and a lot of people in the country, and the majority of people in the country don't love that. But I'm just saying that you just always got to follow where the money is. And the people that get canceled are the people that aren't as valuable as the people that, haven't been canceled. And it's the same with you when you're doing your shows, Carolyn. It's like if you go on and you do well, and the club owner in, let's say, Portland, Maine, says to the producer, hey, Carolyn had the best set of the night. I want her back. Make sure she comes back. You've added value, and now you have more value. And then when the producer says, hey, Carolyn, the producer wants you back, great. I'd like some more money.
Right. Exactly.
What do you mean you want more money? What are you talking about? You're doing the same thing. You're featuring for the thing. Yeah, but the club owner requested me. I want more money. Book a opening act that's less money. I want more money. Well, I'm not going to give you more money. Well, then I'm not going to do the club. Tell the owner that you didn't get me in the club because you couldn't pay me what I'm worth. And you know what? You tell them that, I'll be up there.
Barry, I just got one name, and I know you're going to have a lot to say. And but you're talking about comics.
Is this a Tommy? Can I just ask you a question? Is this the Jerry Lewis telethon? What's happening?
He's looking for an off-ramp, Tommy.
Charlie Barnett.
Charlie Barnett, the greatest street performer of all time, used to perform in Washington Square Park in the fountain. Was homeless, but you never knew he was homeless. He had new clothes every day because he would just take his winnings or his earnings and buy new clothes and give his old clothes to homeless people. One of my favorite stories is that I took Dave Chappelle to see Charlie in the park. And Charlie was doing like 4 hours. An hour after it started, I saw Dave walking away, and I ran after him and said, where are you going? And he turned around. He was crying. I said, why are you crying? He said, why did you take me here? I said, well, I wanted to see one of the greatest street performers of all time. Man, don't ever fucking take me here or anywhere and do that to me. I'll never be as funny as him. And I said, oh, that's too bad, because you're going to be following him tonight at the Boston Comedy Club. So you're going to have to figure out to be funnier than him. Charlie always closed every show.
He was amazing.
But on this particular night, I switched it. Charlie got a standing ovation.
Wow.
And then I put Dave on, and Dave somehow brought the crowd into his energy.
Yeah.
Started killing. He got a standing ovation. The next Monday, I go to my office, which all my clients, a lot of them had the keys or whatever. Charlie Barnett is sleeping under a desk in my office. I'm like, Charlie, what are you doing here? He says, I wanted to be here early to talk to you. I'm like, what is it? He says, can I see a videotape of that kid that went on this weekend? I was thinking about all weekend. I'm like, you want to see a video? Yeah. And I got the video, and I put the tape in, and I put him in the lobby watching the video. And the video finished. I came out. Charlie was crying.
Wow.
Charlie, why are you crying? I said, look at him. He's so slow and methodical. He trusts his material. I go so fast because I don't believe in my material.
Wow.
Man, I'm never going to be as funny as him. I said, Charlie, what a coincidence. He said the same thing about you.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Good night, everybody. It's been a wonderful time.
I think that's our last story for
That's how you wrap that picnic up, right there.
All I got out of this show was most people leave Barry Katz office crying, and I don't know why.
A lot of tears. A lot of tears.
A lot of tears in that office.
Weeping.
Well, Jim and Tommy and Carolyn, thank you so much. And I really hope that if people are young comedians or people in the comedy business, I hope that they want to check out the podcast Industry Standard. They can have those stories of these people going from humble beginnings to where they got to, and also if they want to sort of get more ahead and get an edge in the game and sort of bypass all the bullshit, the blueprint, they can check it out on my website, and it's got all these crazy tiers, and you can be a part of something special. And I promise you will rise very quickly if you get involved in that. And then after that, I suggest you join the Tommy Morin God Cult. And
yes. He's signing me up.
Did you just cult?
I'm just fucking with you. I'm sorry. I always say to Tommy, he could get in a hurricane, his hair would never move. It's unbelievable.
I agree with that.
No.
It hasn't changed.
I was telling him that was the miracle. His hair doesn't move.
Tommy, it's not a cult. I look like Tommy Koresh, not you. So don't worry. Is it David Koresh? Tommy Koresh?
David Koresh. David Koresh.
I'm Tommy, his younger brother. Jim, thank you so much for letting me know what brand of container you use, and I appreciate that. Just put it in the chat. And Carolyn, I want to see the video of what you're doing. I really do. I'm excited for you. And Tommy, congratulations on your son and the baseball. It's exciting. Yeah. And I love talking to you guys, and I really had a wonderful time. So I hope it was okay for you guys.
It was great.
It was great.
There's so much there, and I just appreciate. That's why I didn't want to say 2 words, because you were rolling, and there's a lot to learn. And thank you so much.
I took notes.
Thank you. I took notes too.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Tommy and Carolyn. I'm Jim, and Barry Katz. Thank you so much. That was really great. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.